Hey guys, welcome back to another video and I hope you guys are doing extremely great. And today we are going to solve this question to sum. And for this question today we will be learning two different approaches. The first one is going to be the brute force approach and the second one is going to be the optimized approach. So make sure you stick around till the end with your pen and paper. And now let's get started. First, let's understand what the question is saying. So we are given an array of integer and a target. And our task is to return the indices of those two numbers that add up to this target. Okay, so in this case the target is 9, so we are returning the indices of 2 and 7. That is why 0 and 1 is the output. Same for this particular example, we need to return the indices of those two numbers such that they add up to the target. So that's why we are returning 1 and 2 here for the indices of 2 and 4. So now you understood the question. Now let's see how we can solve this question with the brute force approach. Okay. So, but before that, in the question there are two things that are mentioned and that we need to know. The first thing is we cannot use the same element twice. It should not be like this is the element and this is again the same element. No, we cannot use the same element twice. For example, if the target is 6, we cannot use 3 plus 3 and then we are returning 0 comma 0. No, it should not be the case. We cannot use the same element twice. The second thing is, in the question it is clearly mentioned that the question guarantees that for each input there would have exactly one solution, not more than that and not less than that. Why I am saying this line, I will let you know once I will show you the code. Okay, so you just need to remember these 2 points. The first one is we cannot use the same element twice, and the second point is for each input there would have exactly one solution. Okay, now we understood the question and we also understood the requirement. Now let's move ahead and try to solve this question using the brute force approach. So in the brute force approach, what I need to do, for example, if this is the array 2 7 11 15 and the target is 9, what I need to do, I need two numbers, right? I need two numbers such that they add up to this target. And if this condition is true, I need to return the indices of these two numbers, right? So for finding out two numbers, I need two loops, right? Outer loop and one inner loop. So outer loop will help me to traverse this entire array one by one, right? I can traverse this entire array one by one. First, I will start from here, then I will move ahead, then I will move ahead, then I will move ahead. So this outer loop is going to help me to traverse all the array element. Okay. And after that, this inner loop, how this inner loop is going to help us? This inner loop is going to help us in forming all possible pairs. In forming all possible pairs, because we don't know which pair will give us the answer. So what we are doing here, we are generating all possible pair of numbers and we are checking if their sum is equal to the target. For example, with this 2 I'm gonna make pair with 7, I'm gonna make pair with 11, I'm gonna make pair with 15. And if any pair of number, if their sum is equals to the target, which in this case this pair is going to give me the target, then immediately we can return their indices, right? So this outer loop will help me to traverse all the array elements one by one, and this inner loop will help me to make pair for with that current element with the remaining array elements. So for each element we are going to make pair with the remaining elements and we'll check if the sum of that pair is equal to the target or not. If that is equal, so we are returning the indices of those two numbers. I will show you the code. Okay, so the code will look like this. Here we have an outer loop that will help us to traverse all the array element one by one, and then we have an inner loop that will help us to make pair with that current element and with the remaining elements. Okay, and what we are doing here, we have a condition: if nums of I plus nums of j is equals to the target, if the sum of that pair is equals to the target, then in that case we are returning the indices of those two numbers. Okay, and at the end we are simply returning an empty array. But this line is never going to execute. Why I'm saying this? Because in the question it is clearly mentioned that the for each input there would have exactly one solution. So we are definitely going to return something from here. It is not going to be like we are not returning anything from here. This line is definitely going to be execute, because in the question it is clearly mentioned that for each input there would have exactly one solution. So that's why this line is going to be execute, and this line will never execute because we are returning from here. Okay, so that's how we can solve this question using the brute force approach, where we don't have to think much. We are just generating all possible pair of number and checking if their sum is equals to the target. If this condition is true, then we are returning the indices of those two numbers. So that's how we can solve this question using this brute force approach. But here you can see the time complexity is big of n square because we are traversing the array twice. So that's why it's not an optimized solution and is also not good for large test cases. So let's see the optimized solution now. Okay, so I'm gonna take the same example 2 7 11 15. Okay, this is the array that is given to us and this is the target. Okay, target is equals to 9. So you need to remember one thing: whenever you are in a situation where you need to find pairs, because here also we are finding pairs like this. Okay, So whenever you are in a situation where you need to find pairs or you need to count frequency, in that case, the first thought that should come in your mind is of using hash map. Okay, so I'm gonna use the same concept here. I'm gonna think, can I apply hash map in this approach or not? Okay, so what I will do, I will start traversing this array. Okay, I will start traversing this array, and this is my first element, and this is my second element, and this is target, right? I will start traversing the array. I will start from here. Okay, I will start from here. I will check 2 plus I need something, right? I need something means I need a second element. And how we can find the second element? Okay, by subtracting my second element from this target. Okay, so that's how we can find the second element. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna check for this 2, I'm gonna check, do I have something in my hash map? Do I have a second element in my hash map such that the sum of these two numbers are equal to the target? Okay, if this number is present in the hash map, then we are going to return the indices of these two numbers. Okay, so the purpose of using a hash map here is we are not generating all possible pair of numbers. Here what we are doing in the hash map, we are storing the numbers that we have already seen before. Okay, so now you got the logic, right? In the hash map, what we are doing, we are storing the numbers that we have already seen before instead of generating all possible pairs that we did in the brute force approach. Okay, so that's why we are using a hash map here, and you always need to remember this thing whenever you are in a situation where you need to form pairs or where you need to count frequency. You will always think of hash map first, right? So for this element, I'm gonna check, is the second element present in my hash map? No, it's not. If the element is not present, then I'm gonna add the current element in my hash map along with its index. Okay, so I inserted 2, 0 in my hash map. Now I am here. For this 7, I'm gonna check, do I have something in my hash map? Do I have the second element in my hash map? What I'm saying, do I have something in my hash map? Do I have the second element in my hash map for this particular element such that their sum is equal to the target? And this time, what should be the second element? Target minus 7. So it should come out 2. So this time I have 2 in my hash map. So that means if you form a pair of 7 and 2, you are going to get the result. You are going to get the target. So that is our answer. These are the two numbers that we want. So we can simply return the indices of these two numbers. For this number, we were here. So that's why we can return I. And for this number, we can simply return the value of this from the hash map. So that's how we can solve this question using the hash map approach. Okay. And now I will show you the code, how the code will look like. So what we are going to do, first we need an hash map. So that's what I'm writing here. Okay, and in the hash map we are going to store the values in the form of pairs, and both the values will be of integer type. Okay, and this is the name of the hash map. Okay, and after that what I'm doing, I'm traversing the array from 0 to n and I plus plus. And what I am doing now, first I am finding out the second element, which I can easily find with this line of statement, target minus nums of I, right? That's how I'm gonna find the second element. And now I will check if map, the hash map, contains this element or not. Then what I need to do, I will simply store the indices of these two numbers. For this number, I is going to be the index, and for this number, this is going to be the index. Map dot get second. This is going to be the index because this will give me the index of that number. Okay, and here we can return answer, right? Okay, and here we are returning answer. But if this condition is not true, then what we need to do, we just need to add that current element in my hash map. Okay, and at the end we are returning answer. But this line is never going to execute because the question guarantees that for each input there would have exactly one solution. So definitely we are going to return our answer from here only. Okay, this line is never going to execute. So that's how we can solve this question using the hash map approach. And here you can see the time complexity is big of n because we are only traversing once, and the space complexity is also big of n because we have used an extra space here in the form of an hash map to store all the key value pairs, right? So that's how we can solve this question, and I hope you got both the approaches now. And if you did, make sure to like, subscribe and comment. And that's it for today. I will see you in the next video with another DSA concept.